Close your eyes and imagine the universe as a boundless ocean, stretching beyond the reach of vision, beyond the reach of time. In this ocean, stars are islands of light, scattered like lanterns across the night. And sometimes, just sometimes, a smaller lantern drifts into view, faint, fleeting yet luminous with meaning. This is how I, divided by Atlas, first appeared to us, not as a roaring visitor or a threat, but as a quiet flame in the dark, a reminder that the galaxy is alive with motion. The year was 2025. Astronomers in Chile, scanning the skies with telescopes that sweep endlessly from horizon to horizon, caught sight of something new. At first, it was only a point of light, unremarkable blending among countless stars, yet its motion betrayed it. Night after night, it shifted against the background, moving with a purpose that no fixed star could match. The data trickled in, and what seemed ordinary began to glow with extraordinary weight. The orbit was strange. The numbers whispered of something unbound. Soon confirmation came. This was not a child of the Sunday. This was the third interstellar visitor ever recorded an object from beyond, christened 3. I divided by Atlas. Pause for a moment and let that realization settle in. Imagine watching the night sky, knowing that nearly every point of light belongs to our family. The sun, the planets, the comets, the distant Oort cloud. And then suddenly, one point does not. One point does not answer to the sun's pull, does not trace the familiar loops of orbits. It comes from elsewhere, from another cradle of creation carrying chemistry and history older than Earth itself. Such a lantern drifting into our sky is both ordinary and miraculous. Astronomers measure discovery in terms of precision, eccentricity, velocity, inclination. But for us lying back and listening, the details are softer, more poetic. Atlas came glowing faintly, as though lit from within by an ancient memory. It has wandered for billions of years across gulfs, so vast we can barely name them. And yet here it was, captured not in a net, but in sight. A speck of light, becoming a story becoming a mirror. Think of its name, Atlas. In Greek myth, Atlas was the Titan who held the sky upon his shoulders, a figure of endurance and burden. How fitting that this interstellar wanderer carries the weight of countless years bearing the sky itself in the form of dust and ice. It is as though myth and science shake hands here, reminding us that even in the language of modern astronomy, old symbols persist. When Atlas was first detected, its magnitude was faint, almost hidden. But faint does not mean powerless. Many of the most important voices in history began as whispers. Many truths revealed themselves not in thunder but in subtlety. Atlas too came quietly, asking not to be feared, but to be noticed. And that is often how wonder enters our lives, not with explosions, but with gentle glimmers that invite us to look closer. The confirmation that Atlas was interstellar sparked immediate comparison to its predecessors, Oumuamua in 2017, Borisov in 2019. Oumuamua was silent, mysterious, showing no coma, no tail, just a shard of rock, tumbling, sparking endless theories. Borisov was bright and familiar, behaving like the comets we know, only faster and more alien in chemistry. Atlas arrived carrying traits of both. It breathed, forming a coma like Borisov, yet whispered strangeness, carrying an unusual signature like Oumuamua. Each visitor is unique, each lantern a different color, and together they remind us that the galaxy is not still but in constant dialogue with itself. But what does it mean for us to witness such a thing? For scientists, it is data spectra ratios, orbits. For dreamers, it is a sign, a reminder that the walls of our system are porous, that we are not alone in silence. For those who lie awake at night, it is comfort. To know that something so old, so fragile can travel so far, and still shine, is to be reminded of our own resilience. We too are small, we too are fragile, and yet, under the right light, we too can shine. Imagine the perspective of Atlas itself, though it has no awareness. For billions of years, it drifted through cold, interstellar night. Stars rose and fell in the distance. Galaxies wheeled quietly. It passed by systems unknown, perhaps brushing the edges of other planets, perhaps unnoticed in alien skies. It carried within its ice the chemistry of its birth, a fingerprint of a star, long gone. And then suddenly it fell toward our sun, drawn into our attention, into our story. Like a traveler who has walked endlessly and finally enters a village, Atlas has arrived, bringing with it silence, mystery, and questions. The beauty of this moment lies in its brevity. Atlas will not stay. Its orbit is hyperbolic, its speed too great. It is passing through, not settling down. This is not permanence, but encounter. And encounters matter. They remind us that not everything precious must last forever. Some things matter precisely because they are fleeting. Like a lantern passing by in the night, Atlas will fade, but the memory of its glow will remain. There is also humility here. We are used to thinking of ourselves as explorers, as the ones who send probes outward, who study the skies, who search for signs of others. But Atlas flips the perspective. This time, the visitor came to us uninvited, unannounced. It crossed into our skies not because we sought it, but because the galaxy is alive with movement. We are not only searchers, we are hosts. And to be a host is to listen, to notice, to honor the guest before it departs. So let this image stay with you. As you drift towards sleep, a tiny light against the infinite dark, carrying within it stories of another star, another time. It moves steadily, quietly, not for us, but past us. Yet in passing, it gives us a gift, the gift of wonder, the reminder that the universe is full of lanterns drifting through the night, each carrying its own flame. Atlas is one such lantern. We see it now. And for this moment, the galaxy feels a little smaller, a little closer, a little more alive. And as the night deepens, let the glow of Atlas soothe your thoughts. Let its fragile light remind you that you too are part of this conversation, part of this fabric of dust and stars. Atlas shines and then it goes. But in shining, it has already spoken. Imagine looking at the Milky Way, not as the soft band of starlight you see overhead, but as an enormous city sprawling, layered, and alive. In this city, some neighborhoods are calm, like quiet suburbs, where stars orbit in neat lines and planets grow steadily. Our sun lives in such a district, a thin disk, where order prevails and chaos is rare. But not far from here, above and below the thin plain, lies another region, the thick disk, an older, rougher neighborhood. It is here many scientists believe that 3I, divided by Atlas, began its journey a birthplace of wanderers shaped in ancient chaos. The thick disk is a relic of the galaxy's youth. Billions of years ago, before the spiral arms were as well defined, before order took hold, the Milky Way was more turbulent. Stars formed quickly, supernovae erupted often, and gravity was in constant competition. In this churning environment, protoplanetary disks, the nurseries where planets and comets take shape, were battered by shock waves and enriched by stellar debris. It was an environment less gentle, more raw. Atlas, with its unusual chemistry and restless orbit, may carry the fingerprints of this violent origin. Astronomers trace its path backward, through careful simulations. They find that the orbit does not point to our Oort cloud or Kuiper belt, the distant regions where local comets are born. Instead, it stretches back beyond past the sun's influence into galactic space. There it aligns best with the thick disk, where metallicity is lower and carbon dioxide could form in abundance compared to water ice. The very breath of Atlas, the CO, two jets that dominate its coma, may be a direct echo of this alien nursery. Pause for a moment and let yourself imagine that nursery. A dense cluster of stars glows in the dark young suns, blazing with ultraviolet light, older ones dying in supernovae. Clouds of gas swirl like oceans in storm, their colors invisible to the naked eye, but radiant in the language of physics. Within those clouds, dust grains gather colliding, sticking, forming icy bodies. Some are captured into stable orbits around new stars. Others are thrown outward, by gravitational kicks exiled into interstellar night. Atlas was likely one of these exiles formed in heat and turbulence cast adrift before our Earth was even born. This exile may sound like loss, but it is also survival. Locked within Atlas are ices that have never felt the warmth of a star until now. They are pristine unchanged for billions of years. In them are clues to conditions. We can never witness directly the temperatures, the gas mixtures, the mineral dust that made up a different corner of the galaxy. Atlas is a frozen time capsule. To see it glowing now is to open a letter written eons ago, delivered by chance into our skies. There is poetry in this too. Every star system has its own recipes, its own balance of elements. Some are rich in water, others in methane, others in carbon dioxide. Comets are the messengers of those recipes, wandering chefs carrying samples of their kitchens. When Atlas releases its gases, it is sharing the flavor of its origin, a taste of a neighborhood far away. By comparing these flavors, scientists begin to map the diversity of galactic chemistry. In this sense, Atlas is not alone, but part of a wider exchange, a galactic marketplace of matter. Think also of how exile shapes identity. A stone carved by rivers carries the memory of water. A leaf blown across lands carries the scent of forests. So too with Atlas. Its exile gave it resilience. It endured cosmic rays, collisions with dust, long stretches of silence. Yet beneath the scars, its essence remained intact. That is why when sunlight now awakens it, we can glimpse something authentic, something untouched. Its birthplace speaks through it still. The thick disk is not a gentle place, but it is honest. It forges survivors. Perhaps this is why Atlas has endured so long. Where comets from our own system often fragment or fade, Atlas seems stubborn, holding itself together as it races into danger. Its chemistry may be strange, but its resilience is universal. It is the hallmark of all wanderers born in chaos. Pause again and let yourself feel the scale. Atlas may be only a few kilometers across, but the story it carries spans billions of years and thousands of light years. Its birthplace is not a single location, but an era, the turbulent youth of the galaxy itself. To think of this is to feel both small and connected. Small because our lives are brief compared to such timescales. Connected because we are made of the same elements, forged in the same stars, carried by the same currents. The symbolism is powerful. Atlas reminds us that where you are born shapes you, but it does not define your path. Born in chaos, it became a traveler. Exiled, it became a messenger. Its birthplace was harsh, yet from it came endurance. In that sense, Atlas is not unlike us. Humanity too was born from struggle, from survival, through harsh climates and turbulent histories. And like Atlas, we carry our past with us, even as we travel into new futures. For scientists, studying Atlas means decoding isotopes, measuring light curves, analyzing tails. But for us, lying back and drifting towards sleep, it means something gentler. It means listening to the whisper of another time, another place. It means accepting that the galaxy is vast but not unreachable. Its stories find their way to us carried in fragile lanterns of ice and dust. So as you let your eyes close, picture that birthplace, the thick disk of the Milky Way crowded, stormy, alive. See Atlas, forming there a small body of ice in a great storm. See it cast outward, drifting through interstellar dark, alone but enduring. and now see it here glowing in our sky for a brief moment, carrying with it the memory of its origin. Atlas is not just a comet. It is a child of chaos, a survivor of exile, a mirror of our own place in the universe. In its light, we see not only the past, but the continuity of all things. The galaxy is not still, it flows. And we are part of that flow threads, woven into a fabric older and greater than we can imagine. Atlas is one such thread shimmering now in our sight. And in that shimmer we glimpse the birthplace of wanderers, and the reminder that even in chaos, beauty endures. When we first hear the story of a comet, we may think of images, a glowing tail, a streak across the sky, a brief apparition. But for astronomers, before images come numbers. Numbers are the silent language of the universe, the grammar by which objects reveal their identities. And when the first calculations for 3I divided by Atlas were made, those numbers spoke louder than any photograph could. They told us this was not a comet bound to our sun, not a familiar traveler of the Oort cloud, but something stranger, freer, something from beyond. The first number to whisper of this truth was eccentricity. Imagine orbits as shapes drawn by gravity's hand. A perfect circle has an eccentricity of 0. Most planets lie close to that perfection, nearly round. A comet from our system may stretch longer, closer to 1, but still curves back eventually. But Atlas, its eccentricity was not 1. It was far greater, a value of 6, so high it shattered the idea of a returning loop. Such a number marks a hyperbola, not an ellipse. Hyperbolic orbits are open doors. They do not circle back. They come once, and then they are gone. Pause here, and let yourself breathe with that thought. Most objects in our sky are part of a family circling endlessly predictable, comforting. Atlas is not. Its numbers declare it a visitor passing through, never to be bound again. To imagine this is to picture a line cutting across a circle, a trajectory that does not belong. Atlas is a guest who cannot stay, a lantern passing only once through our dark. Velocity was the second clue. At perihelion, its closest approach to the sun, Atlas would rush at nearly 60 kilometers per second. To ground that in something tangible, think of the fastest jet on Earth moving at 3,000 kilometers per hour. Atlas moves 200,000 kilometers per hour, 60 times faster, without pause, without friction. No push from Jupiter, no gravity assist from Saturn could give such speed. The only source is exile from another system, momentum gained long ago, carried faithfully across billions of years. Numbers can seem cold, but they carry poetry. 60 kilometers per second is not just speed, it is freedom. It is proof that Atlas has slipped every leash, every tether. It has escaped the gravity of its birth star, ignored the pull of countless suns, and will ignore ours too. Its path is not a loop, but a corridor, a straight road leading out again into darkness. To watch it move is to glimpse what true freedom looks like, motion unbound, journey unending. For astronomers, plotting its orbit was like unwrapping a gift. Each data point refined the trajectory, each calculation confirmed the story. The line traced backward pointed toward the thick disk of the galaxy. The line traced forward led outward beyond Neptune, beyond the Oort cloud, back into interstellar night. Atlas's numbers told of a journey not measured in decades or centuries, but in millions of years. Imagine carrying motion for that long. No rest, no pause, just steady drifting through the silence. Yet numbers do more than define, they invite wonder. Think of eccentricity again, a measure of how far from round something island. Most lives, like orbits, follow circles, routines, returns, repetition. Atlas's orbit is not like that. It is not return, but passage. Its eccentricity is not just a statistic, it is a metaphor. Not all journeys end where they began. Some continue outward, forever leaving behind stories instead of returns. Atlas embodies that truth. The retrograde nature of its orbit added another layer. Not only does Atlas move on a hyperbolic path, it does so against the direction of most solar traffic. Imagine a river where nearly every fish swims downstream, and suddenly one appears rushing against the current, moving with a speed none of the others can match. That is Atlas in our system, an object swimming upstream, a reminder that difference is not only possible, but inevitable, in a universe as vast as ours. Numbers also tell of safety. Early excitement often mixes with worry. Could it collide? Could it threaten Earth? But calculations soothe those fears. Atlas will not come dangerously close to us. Its path is high, far detached. The numbers prove that while we may watch, we are safe. Its story is one of wonder, not danger. In this way, mathematics becomes comfort, a lullaby written in orbital elements and plotted graphs. Pause again and picture the comet as a point of light against the stars trailing its newborn coma. Around it, invisible equations govern every move. Gravity bends its path, velocity drives it forward, eccentricity defines its freedom. To us, it is beauty. To astronomers, it is data. But the two are not separate. Numbers reveal beauty, and beauty gives meaning to numbers. Together they tell the story of a wanderer from beyond. There is humility in these figures. We are small, fragile creatures, and yet through mathematics we can predict the motion of a body across light years. With telescopes we see it faintly, with equations we follow it truly. Atlas does not know its path, but we do. In this way science becomes a form of listening, a way of hearing what the universe is already saying. And there is comfort too in recognizing patterns. Atlas may be unique, but it is not alone. Others will follow. The galaxy is full of objects, cast adrift, each carrying numbers of their own eccentricities, velocities, inclinations. Each will add a new sentence to the story, a new phrase to the cosmic conversation. Atlas is only the third we have noticed, but not the last. The numbers remind us that we are at the beginning of a new chapter, not the end. So as you rest, let the rhythm of these numbers soothe you. 6 for eccentricity, 60 kilometers per second, millions of years in motion. Each one a heartbeat, steady, certain, eternal. Atlas is not chaos, it is order, written in a different language. By listening to its numbers, we understand not only what it is, but where it comes from, where it is going, and why it matters. Atlas will pass, but its mathematics remain. They will be archived, studied, remembered, long after the light fades from our skies. In those numbers, it will speak again to future generations, reminding them of the lantern that once drifted past, carrying with it freedom beyond the Sunday. Picture an object that has been asleep for billions of years, drifting through an endless night. Its surface is hard, silent, crusted with dust and scars, and beneath that surface lie frozen reserves of ancient gases. No warmth has touched them, no light has stirred them since the day of their birth in a galactic nursery long ago. And then slowly, the faint pull of the sun draws this object closer, closer, until sunlight begins to caress it. That is when the miracle happens. Ice breathes again. 3. I, divided by Atlas, has wandered in darkness longer than Earth has existed. For most of that time it was frozen, unchanged, a capsule of alien chemistry drifting between the stars. But as it approached our solar system, the story shifted. Heat began to reach its surface, a warmth so subtle on human scales, yet transformative for a body that has known only cold. The ice is buried within carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, traces of water awakened. They sublimated, turning directly from solid to gas, rushing outward to form the coma, a glowing veil of vapor and dust. Pause here And imagine this transformation not as violence but as a breath. The comet exhales. After ages of silence, it whispers into space. Each molecule, leaving its surface, carries with it a story of origin, a chemical fingerprint that reveals where Atlas was born, what clouds of gas and dust shaped it, what kind of star once warmed its neighborhood. To astronomers, these gases are clues. To us, they are voices soft and ancient speaking across light years. The coma is not just beauty, it is revelation. In visible light, it appears as a halo, a sphere of glowing mist surrounding the nucleus. In ultraviolet and infrared telescopes, detect specific gases, each one a signature. Carbon dioxide dominates Atlas's breath far more than in local comets. This imbalance is strange, even alien. It suggests a nursery colder, harsher, or richer in CO2 than our own. It suggests diversity in planetary kitchens, recipes written differently in different corners of the galaxy. The dust joins the gases carried outward, reflecting sunlight, making the coma shine. These grains are tiny, fragile, no larger than specks of sand. Yet they are the remains of worlds unborn, the leftovers of formation preserved in exile. When they scatter into the coma, they turn into light dust, becoming beauty fragments, becoming a vision. Imagine those grains drifting away, each one a relic, each one a messenger. From the coma emerges the tail, or rather two tails, the dust tail curved and golden, following the comet's path, and the plasma tail straight and blue, pointing directly away from the Sunday. Together they unfurl like banners, marking Atlas's passage. They are both gift and warning gift, because they turn physics into spectacle. Warning, because they reveal the fragility of the nucleus. Every breath, every trail of dust is also a loss. Atlas survives by giving itself away. There is something deeply human in this paradox. We, too, are defined by what we give, by what we release into the world. Our voices, our stories, our kindness, they leave us, yet they make us shine. Atlas is no different. It glows because it is losing itself. It becomes luminous by becoming less. In that fragility lies its power. Astronomers call this process outgassing. They measure the jets, the brightness, the changing shapes of the coma. Sometimes the jets erupt unevenly, like geysers blasting material into space and pushing the comet slightly off course. In these irregularities, scientists glimpse the complexity of a small world alive with activity. But for those lying back and listening, the word outgassing is too cold. What we witness is breath-awakening life, returning after timeless slumber. Imagine standing on its surface, though it is impossible. Beneath your feet, the ground is dark and jagged, silent, except for faint tremors as sunlight strikes fissures. Then suddenly vapor bursts outward, a plume rising into space, scattering crystals of ice that glimmer before fading. You feel the ground shift the body, adjust its spin. You look upward, and there is the sun, distant but brilliant, calling this ancient traveler back into motion. For the first time in eons, Atlas feels warmth. For the first time in eons, it breathes. The beauty of this breath is not only in the spectacle, but in what it tells us. Atlas carries chemistry from another star's nursery. By measuring its gases, we measure another world. By studying its dust, we study a fragment of galactic history. The coma is a message. This is who I am. This is where I came from. And we, watching from afar, become readers of this letter, written in vapor and light. But there is danger in this beauty too. Each breath weakens the nucleus. Each plume carves deeper fissures. Each tail sheds more mass. Some comets fragment, entirely breaking into smaller pieces. Their lives ended in luminous disintegration. Whether Atlas will endure or shatter remains unknown. Its breath is both survival and risk. It glows, but at a cost. Pause once more and let the image linger. A body that slept for billions of years is now awake, whispering to us across the void. It is fragile, but it is alive with motion. Its coma expands like a halo, its tails stretch like wings. It is no longer just a point of light, it is a story unfolding, a lantern, not only glowing but breathing. For humanity, watching this process is a gift. Few things remind us so vividly of time and scale. We see in Atlas the endurance of matter, the patience of exile, the suddenness of transformation. We see how light awakens even the most ancient silence. And perhaps we see ourselves fragile, fleeting yet luminous when touched by warmth. So as you drift towards sleep, imagine this lantern breathing in the dark. Each exhalation carries dust of forgotten worlds, vapor of alien chemistry, memory of its birthplace. The coma glows, the tails unfurl, the silence fills with whispers. Atlas is awake. And in its breath, we hear not only its story but our own. The story of life, stirred by light of beauty, born from fragility of ancient silence, transformed into radiant song. Every comet speaks in chemistry. Each time the sun warms, its frozen core gases rise into the coma, and tails turning invisible molecules into visible light. These are not random breaths, but messages carrying the signature of where the comet was born. For most comets of our solar system, the language is familiar. Water vapor dominates, supported by carbon monoxide dust and a scattering of other elements. But Atlas does not speak this way. When its voice reached our telescopes, it spoke in an accent unlike anything we expected. Its breath was rich in carbon dioxide, far richer than that of our local comets. And in that difference lay a secret Atlas carried an alien signature. Astronomers call it compositional anomaly. To them it means numbers ratios of gases measured by instrument spectra split into colored lines. To us listening here in the quiet, it means something stranger. A reminder that not all recipes are the same, that the galaxy cooks in many kitchens, each with its own flavors. Atlas is a dish served from a distant table, its ingredients chosen by a nursery of stars far from ours. Its signature is not an error, not noise. It is identity. Pause here and let yourself picture the process. A telescope points at the coma and light passes through the gases. That light carries fingerprints, specific absorptions that reveal molecules. In the spectrum of Atlas, carbon dioxide lines glow stronger than expected, while water lines fade. The pattern is not familiar. It is as if you expected to hear a familiar song, but the melody bent in surprising ways, new notes carrying the tune. The song is still music, but it is music from another land. What does this mean? Perhaps Atlas was born in a region of space colder than our comet nurseries, where water ice could not dominate, but carbon dioxide could. Perhaps its star was dimmer, or its disk richer in certain elements. Or perhaps it formed in a system that was itself unusual, one where the balance of chemistry tilted differently from ours. Whatever the cause, the message is clear. Atlas is not just a comet. It is a sample of diversity, proof that the galaxy is not uniform, but creative, varied, alive with experimentation. There is beauty in difference. Imagine a gallery where every painting is identical, no variation, no surprise. It would be orderly, but dull. The universe is not such a gallery. It is a vast museum of variation. Each star system, a different canvas. Each comet, a different brushstroke. Atlas is one of these brushstrokes, vivid, unexpected, bold. Its carbon dioxide breath is not a flaw, but a masterpiece of difference. The James Webb Space Telescope helped confirm this strangeness. Its infrared instruments, sensitive to the faintest signatures of molecules, revealed the abundance of CO2 clearly. Compared to comets like Borisov, or those of our Kuiper Belt Atlas, stood apart. Its spectrum was not one we had seen before. For scientists, this was thrilling. For dreamers, it was humbling. To realize that chemistry itself can be alien is to realize that the universe is broader than our imaginations. Think of this alien signature as a language. Local comets speak the dialect of our sun's nursery. Atlas speaks with an accent from far away, yet we understand it not through words, but through light. This is the miracle of science, to translate chemistry into meaning, to turn invisible gases into stories. Atlas may not know it is speaking, but we know we are listening. Its voice reaches us across the void, and in hearing it, we expand our sense of home. This alien chemistry also carries philosophical weight. If comets are the messengers of life carrying water and organics to young planets, then Atlas suggests that other nurseries may send different gifts. Perhaps life elsewhere begins not with water, but with other solvents, other balances. Perhaps alien biologies arise from alien chemistries. To see carbon dioxide dominate where water usually rules is to glimpse possibility, to wonder what other recipes for life the galaxy may hold. Pause again and let that thought soften in your mind. Atlas is small, fragile, fleeting, and yet within its gases lies a truth that touches the deepest questions. We ask, are we alone? Are we typical? Is life a narrow path or a broad river with many channels? The alien signature of Atlas does not answer these questions, but it whispers the river is wide. The contrast to Oumuamua and Borisov sharpens the lesson. Oumuamua was silent, no coma, no signature, only speculation. Borisov was familiar, breathing water and dust, like our comets. Atlas is the third note, the variation, the accent. Together they form a triad, three voices showing three possibilities: silence, similarity, and strangeness. The universe is telling us that diversity is not exception, it is rule. For astronomers, this means new models, new equations. For us lying back and drifting towards sleep, it means reassurance. The galaxy is not monotonous, it is not predictable. It surprises us again and again, with accents and flavors we did not expect. Atlas's alien chemistry is not a threat. It is a gift, a reminder that the unknown is not empty, but full of richness waiting to be tasted. Imagine, as you drift the comet exhaling into space, each plume of gas is a phrase, each spectrum a sentence. Together they form a story. I was born elsewhere. I carry difference. I am proof that your universe is larger than you thought. This is the alien signature. Not hostile, not fearful, but wondrous. And as you listen to that story, let yourself feel small in the best way. For to be small in a vast, varied universe is not to be lost. It is to belong to something greater, a symphony where every voice matters, every accent enriches the song. Atlas's alien breath is one such voice, joining the choir of stars and comets, whispering across light years to say, the galaxy is more than you know, and you are part of it. Imagine standing at the edge of a great canyon, knowing that to continue your journey you must cross it. The canyon is wide, filled with shadows and obstacles carved by time and violence. For comets, the canyon of our solar system is the asteroid belt, a vast ring of debris lying between Mars and Jupiter. To reach the inner planets, every traveler must pass through this gauntlet. And now 3I divided by Atlas approaches it, a fragile wanderer, preparing to cross a corridor lined with ancient stones. The asteroid belt is not what cartoons or myths once imagined. It is not crowded like a marketplace, not so dense that spacecraft must weave constantly to avoid collisions. Space remains vast distances, enormous. Yet within that vastness, trillions of bodies orbit the Sunday. Some are large like Ceres, a dwarf planet with icy crust and hidden mysteries. Others are medium like Vesta and Pallas, scarred by impacts and frozen in time. And countless more, are small pebbles and boulders and grains of dust circling silently. Together, they form a region, both majestic and dangerous. For Atlas, this gauntlet is no simple passage. Unlike local comets, it does not flow with the current. Its orbit is retrograde, moving against the general direction of solar traffic. Picture a single swimmer moving upstream in a river filled with drifting logs. Each encounter is a risk, each moment a reminder of fragility. Atlas is tiny compared to the giants of the belt, but even a pebble at the speeds it travels could carve destruction. Pause here and let that image settle. A glowing comet, fragile and bright, threading its way through a sea of ancient debris. Its coma shines, its tails stretch like banners, yet it is surrounded by silence and potential impact. The asteroid belt is not hostile, but it is indifferent. It has existed for billions of years, as the rubble of creation worlds that tried to form but never succeeded, fragments of a planet that might have been. To pass through is to pass through history itself. Astronomers watch closely, though they know the odds. Space is vast enough that a direct collision with a major asteroid is vanishingly rare. But the danger lies in the unseen, in the dust, and pebbles invisible from Earth. At 60 kilometers per second, even a grain of sand can strike like a bullet, sending fragments flying, eroding the nucleus, triggering sudden outbursts. Atlas does not need to crash into a giant to face peril. The gauntlet tests not with boulders, but with whispers. Think of the symbolism. We too face gauntlets in our lives. They are not always filled with obvious dangers. Sometimes they are made of small stresses, tiny impacts that over time wear us down. Atlas reminds us that even fragile travelers can endure if they keep moving, if they shine despite the risks. To enter the asteroid belt is not to seek destruction, it is to prove resilience. As Atlas approaches, scientists model its path carefully. Gravity from Jupiter, the giant beyond, tugs on the belt and on the comet alike, shaping trajectories, shifting probabilities. The dance of forces here is subtle, a choreography written in equations. Yet to us lying back in the quiet, it feels like watching a performer step onto a tightrope, banners of light, unfurling each step, carrying both grace and risk. The belt itself is ancient. Formed in the earliest days of the solar system, it represents material that never coalesced into a planet. Some theories say Jupiter's gravity prevented it. Others suggest collisions shattered what once tried to grow. Either way, the belt is a graveyard of beginnings, a memorial of potential worlds. For Atlas to pass through is to walk among tombstones, each rock, a reminder of what might have been. And yet there is beauty in this graveyard. The asteroids reflect sunlight faintly, their surfaces painted with minerals, their orbits steady, their presence eternal. Pause again and breathe with that thought. The comet, bright and temporary, threads its way through the permanent. Atlas glows. For a moment the asteroids endure for ages. And yet both are part of the same story movement, collision survival. The belt is static compared to the comet's speed, but it is alive in its own way, a frozen chorus singing of the early days of our system. For Atlas, the challenge is not only survival but transformation. Each plume of gas, each dust trail interacts with the environment. Solar wind sweeps through charged particles dancing. Asteroid dust collide plasma tail shift. In passing through Atlas changes the belt, however, slightly adding its own dust to the mix. And the belt changes Atlas, testing its strength, perhaps weakening it, perhaps sharpening it. The gauntlet is not only obstacle, but teacher. Some speculate about dramatic outcomes. A close pass near an asteroid could alter its path slightly. A collision with small debris could shatter a fragment, creating a new meteor stream. To witness such an event would be both spectacular and bittersweet. We would gain data, but lose the integrity of the traveler. That is the paradox of the gauntlet. Risk is the price of revelation. But even if nothing dramatic occurs, even if Atlas passes quietly, the symbolism remains. Here is a body from another star system, threading through the relics of our own two histories, meeting in silence. It is a crossing of worlds' alien chemistry, brushing against local rubble interstellar story weaving through solar memory. No collision is needed for meaning. The encounter itself is enough. So as you drift toward rest, imagine Atlas entering the Gauntlet. Its tails glow faintly, blue and gold banners streaming against the darkness. Around it, asteroids drift in orbits, silent guardians of a forgotten age. Dust whispers through space, unseen but real, a constant test. The comet does not pause. It continues forward, fragile but radiant, carrying with it the story of another place, another time. And in watching, we are reminded that every journey includes a gauntlet. Every life passes through corridors of trial. Atlas shows us that even in fragility, even in risk, beauty shines. The asteroid belt may test it, but it cannot silence it. The lantern continues, carrying its flame through the canyon of stones. Imagine a great river, wide and steady, with currents flowing in one direction. Leaves, branches, and boats drift with it, all carried by the same invisible pull. Now picture a single object moving against the river's flow, forcing its way upstream, colliding with everything drifting down. That is 3I divided by Atlas in our solar system. It does not follow the traffic of planets, comets, and asteroids, most of which orbit in the same general direction. Instead, Atlas takes the harder road, moving retrograde against the stream. In celestial mechanics, retrograde orbits are rare. Nearly every body in the solar system, from tiny rocks to giant planets, circles the sun in the same direction, inherited from the primordial disk of dust and gas that formed them. To go the other way is to reject that inheritance, to declare an outsider's path. For Atlas, this is not rebellion, it is simply truth. Its origin lies elsewhere, where the rules of our system never applied. When it arrived, it entered at an angle that set it against the flow. The result is striking a comet, threading through the solar current, like a salmon swimming against a flood. Pause for a moment and picture that. The solar system as a massive wheel, planets turning clockwise in harmony, comets arcing along in the same rhythm, and then cutting across a lone traveler moving counter to the dance. To astronomers, this means higher risks, faster encounters, more energy in every interaction. To us, lying quietly and listening, it means difference, courage, and persistence. Atlas is fragile, but it moves anyway, even when the flow resists. At its incredible speed, nearly 60 kilometers per second, Atlas meets every object head-on. Pebbles become bullets, dust becomes sand-blasting storms, and gravitational fields twist more sharply. Its retrograde path multiplies the risks of passage through the asteroid belt. Yet it also multiplies the beauty, for in going against the stream, Atlas reveals itself more vividly, its coma brighter, its tails more dynamic, sculpted sharply by the solar wind. Resistance makes it shine. There is symbolism here, rich and human. We live in a world where it often feels safer to go with the flow, to follow paths already worn by others. Yet history remembers those who moved against the stream, thinkers, explorers, dreamers who dared to swim upstream. Atlas is one of these, not by choice but by nature. It does not fit the rhythm of our sky, yet it carves its place anyway. Its retrograde path is a lesson in the value of difference, the beauty of divergence. Astronomers study this orbit carefully. Retrograde trajectories mean faster relative velocities, making observations challenging but rewarding. The way Atlas interacts with solar wind, with asteroid dust, with magnetic fields, all of it becomes a natural experiment, offering insights we could not gain from local comets. By being different, Atlas teaches more. By resisting the stream, it reveals new currents we had not seen before. Pause again and let yourself imagine the comet as a swimmer. Around it, asteroids drift downstream, their paths aligned. Atlas cuts through graceful yet stubborn banners of dust and plasma streaming behind it. Each collision with dust is like water splashing against its body, each plume of gas like a stroke, pushing it onward. It does not stop. It cannot stop. It continues because its path is written in ancient momentum, a line drawn billions of years ago and carried still. The retrograde nature of Atlas also speaks to its alienness. It is not just chemically different, it is dynamically different. Everything about it whispers, "I am not from here." Its CO2, dominated breath, its hyperbolic orbit, its upstream motion together, they form a signature, unmistakable. It is as though the galaxy itself wanted to make sure we noticed, wanted to place a lantern in our sky that glowed with uniqueness. Some wonder what such a path might mean for the future. Retrograde objects, because of their unusual trajectories, may be harder to predict, harder to intercept with spacecraft. If humanity ever attempts to send a probe to meet one, it will face challenges far greater than with local comets. Yet those challenges are opportunities. By reaching for the different, we expand what is possible. Atlas, in swimming upstream, invites us to swim farther than before. And in a gentler sense, Atlas reflects the way life itself often unfolds. We are born into currents, families, cultures, expectations. Some follow smoothly, some resist. To move against the stream is not easy, but it can be necessary, and it can be beautiful. Atlas reminds us that difference is not error, it is identity. The universe does not insist on uniformity. It delights in variation. So as you drift into rest, let this image guide you: a lone comet, fragile yet persistent, glowing as it races upstream through the solar current. Dust strikes it, winds buffet it, gravity bends it, yet it continues, tails streaming like luminous wings. It is not from here, it does not follow the rules. Here, yet it belongs here in its own way, because to move against the stream is still to be part of the river. Atlas will leave one day, continuing its retrograde escape into interstellar night. But for now, as it races against the flow of our solar family, it gives us a vision, indifference, illuminated resistance, radiant fragility, made powerful by persistence. A lantern in the dark, swimming against the current, showing us that beauty does not always lie in conformity, but often in the courage to go another way. Imagine wandering through the remains of an abandoned city. The walls are broken, the streets are empty, yet the stones still whisper of what might have been homes, never completed towers that never rose, lives that never unfolded. This is the feeling of the asteroid belt, and this is where I divided by Atlas now drifts. For between Mars and Jupiter lie the ruins of unfinished worlds, a graveyard of planetary dreams that never came true. Billions of years ago, when the solar system was young, this region was filled with promise. Dust-swirled rocks, collided fragments clumped together trying to form a planet. But Jupiter, immense and domineering, disrupted the process. Its gravity pulled too strongly, scattering would-be builders, preventing the neighborhood from ever settling into order. What remains is a vast collection of fragments, Ceres, Vesta, Pallas, Hygeia, each a shard of what could have been, each carrying the scars of its frustrated birth. Pause here and picture Ceres, the largest of the asteroids, nearly 1,000 kilometers across. Its surface is pale-scarred, with craters yet sprinkled with bright spots of salt, shining like frozen tears. Scientists believe Ceres once held oceans beneath its crust, oceans that may still slumber in pockets of brine. It is not a planet, but it carries the memory of one, a world halted halfway through its story. Then picture Vesta, smaller but fiery in its past. Long ago it melted and differentiated, forming a crust, mantle, and core like a miniature planet. But collisions shattered it, blasting pieces into space, some of which still fall to Earth as meteorites. Each fragment is a page torn from a book, never finished, a relic of a story interrupted. Atlas threads through these ruins, like a visitor to an ancient museum. It is alien to them, born beyond our sun, yet in drifting through their midst, it becomes part of their story, and they part of its. Alien chemistry passes among local rubble, and for a brief moment, two different histories touch. The ruins of unfinished worlds watch a traveler from another world, and silence becomes dialogue. The asteroid belt is not crowded yet, it is vast. Between its largest members float countless smaller ones, rocks the size of mountains, boulders the size of houses, grains the size of sand. Together they create a landscape that is not landscape, a field that is not field, a region of emptiness, punctuated by reminders of creation's chaos. For Atlas, each piece is a potential hazard, yet also a reflection. They are cousins of Comet's kin in fragility and endurance. There is symbolism here. We too live among unfinished dreams, projects begun, and abandoned paths imagined but never walked. Yet those fragments are not meaningless. Like Ceres and Vesta, they carry value, memory, and lessons. Atlas's passage through the belt reminds us that even ruins matter. Even the incomplete tells a story worth listening to. Astronomers study these ruins carefully. Spectra reveal minerals, hydrated clays, metallic cores, carbon-rich surfaces. Some asteroids hold the building blocks of life frozen in place for billions of years. They are not failed worlds but reservoirs, libraries of possibility. The belt is less a graveyard and more an archive. And now Atlas moves among the shelves of that archive, carrying its own alien text, adding variety to the collection. Pause again and let that image soothe you. A glowing comet with tails unfurled, drifting silently past grey stones that circle endlessly. The stones whisper of aborted planets. The comet whispers of alien nurseries. Together they form a harmony of loss and survival, difference and connection. To witness this is to see the universe as it truly is, not perfect, not complete, but alive, with attempts, experiments, and fragments that all have meaning. For Atlas, survival here is uncertain. A collision with even a small rock could fracture it. Yet the vastness of space favors endurance. It is more likely to pass unharmed, glowing faintly, adding its dust to the ancient cloud. And even if nothing dramatic happens, its passage itself is significant. A visitor from another star moving through the ruins of what might have been. This is history meeting, history silence, meeting silence, light meeting stone. The ruins of unfinished worlds also remind us of our own fragility. Earth too was once only dust, only fragments, at the mercy of collisions and chance. That it became a living planet is a triumph of luck and endurance. Ceres and Vesta did not become planets, yet they still exist, still endure. Atlas did not stay in its home system, yet it still carries its essence across the galaxy. The incomplete does not mean the unworthy. The fragment does not mean the forgotten. So as you rest, imagine Atlas gliding gently past the relics of ancient failure. The stones remain silent, their orbits unchanging, but they witness the lantern pass glowing with alien breath. In that silent meeting lies a kind of beauty, a kind of reconciliation. The ruins are not empty. They are full of meaning, full of history. Atlas is not intruder, but participant. Together they weave the story of survival and imperfection, of what is and what might have been. Atlas will continue moving onward, leaving the ruins behind. But for this moment it drifts among them, part of their quiet museum. And in that moment we see reflected not only the comet's fragility, but our own. We too live among ruins, carry fragments, and move forward anyway. Atlas teaches us that survival is not about perfection. It is about continuing glowing, moving, even when the path is incomplete. Let this thought carry you into sleep, a glowing wanderer threading through ruins of worlds that never came to be silence, filled with memory fragments alive with story. Atlas drifts on, and so do we. The lantern moves through the museum of the cosmos, reminding us that even unfinished worlds shine in their own way. When we think of storms, we picture clouds, thunder, rain beating against the earth. But not all storms announce themselves with sound and fury. Some are invisible, silent, and yet far more dangerous. For three, I divided by Atlas. The greatest threat it faces in the asteroid belt may not be the massive rocks or dwarf planets. Instead, it is the dust-tiny, unseen particles drifting like a cosmic storm, waiting for the fragile traveler to pass through. At 60 kilometers per second, even a grain of dust becomes a bullet. Imagine driving through a fog where every droplet is steel, every speck sharp enough to pierce metal. That is the reality for Atlas. Its coma glows brightly, but it is also a shield made of fragility, a curtain of vapor that cannot stop collisions. Each particle it encounters strikes with immense energy, chipping away at the nucleus, eroding its ancient body. The unseen storm is constant, relentless, a quiet sandblasting that wears the comet down. Pause here and picture the silence of it. There are no sounds in space, no thunderclaps, no winds to howl. Yet in that silence, energy is exchanged. Dust collides with dust particles, fragment tails shimmer with the evidence of impact. What to us looks like gentle light is in truth a battlefield, a constant stream of blows absorbed by an ancient traveler. The dust storm unseen is both subtle and immense. Astronomers know this storm by studying how comets fade. Local comets often lose mass quickly, their surfaces scarred by encounters with micrometeoroids. Atlas is no different, though its alien chemistry may respond in unexpected ways. Its CO2-rich ice sublimates, leaving behind fragile crusts easily broken. Each dust grain that strikes it may open new vents, trigger new outbursts, alter the shape of the coma. In this way, the invisible storm sculpts the comet, turning collisions into transformation. Think of it as a sculptor's chisel. The dust does not only destroy, it reshapes. The surface of Atlas becomes pitted, fractured, alive with change. Each scar tells a story of encounter, each outburst a memory of impact. To astronomers, these are data points. To us, they are metaphors. Life too wears us down, not always with great catastrophes, but with small invisible impacts, stresses, losses, disappointments. They accumulate quietly, shaping us, sculpting us into new forms. Atlas, in drifting through the dust, reminds us that endurance is not the absence of scars, but the beauty of being reshaped by them. The plasma tail of Atlas often reveals evidence of these invisible storms. Solar wind and magnetic fields interact with the ions released by impacts, creating ripples and disconnections. Sometimes the tail seems to break apart, severed by invisible hands, before reforming again. To the eye, it looks like a living banner fluttering in winds we cannot see. But those ripples are traces of collisions, the comet's silent battles made visible as light. Pause again and breathe with that thought. Imagine a glowing banner stretched across the sky, torn and mended again and again, yet always streaming onward. That is Atlas, enduring the storm, carrying its flame through invisible trials. It does not fight or resist. It simply continues glowing as it goes. Its survival is not defiance, but persistence, a lesson written in dust. The danger is real, though. If the impacts accumulate too quickly, if a fracture runs deep, Atlas could shatter. Other comets have done so, fragmenting into smaller bodies, scattering dust and ice across space, their brief lives ending in cascades of light. Should Atlas meet that fate, it would become a meteor shower of alien matter, a fireworks display across the solar system. Beautiful, yes, but final. The dust storm unseen holds both beauty and threat gift and risk. Yet even destruction would not mean disappearance. The fragments would continue their paths, each a smaller lantern drifting onward. Dust released into the solar system would mingle with ours, becoming part of our zodiacal cloud, falling eventually into our skies as meteors. In this way, Atlas would become part of us, its alien chemistry joining our own, its exile ending in communion. But for now, Atlas still holds together. Its coma breathes its tails, stream its nucleus, survives the storm. Each unseen collision is endured, each scar absorbed, each ripple transformed into light. In this persistence lies a quiet strength, a reminder that fragility and endurance are not opposites. They are companions. To be fragile is to be vulnerable, but to endure fragility is to be strong. There is a lesson here, one that fits the rhythm of sleep. Life often feels like a dust storm. Unseen small pressures, quiet trials daily, impacts we cannot avoid. They erode, they reshape, they scar. Yet in enduring them we glow differently. We become luminous, not in spite of scars, but because of them. Atlas glows because it is losing itself, and yet, in losing it, becomes beautiful. We too shine through endurance. So as you rest tonight, imagine Atlas drifting through the storm. The dust is invisible, the collisions silent, but the glow is undeniable. Its coma expands like a halo, its tails ripple like banners, its scars transform into beauty. The unseen storm continues, but Atlas continues too. And in that persistence we see not only the story of a comet, but the story of ourselves, fragile, enduring, luminous in the silence of trials. When you hear the word laboratory, you may picture walls of glass and steel rows of instruments, scientists moving quietly between benches. But not all laboratories are built by human hands. Some drift through space, shaped not by architecture, but by physics. 3. I divided by Atlas. Fragile and fleeting though it may seem, is one of these. As it moves through the solar system, it becomes a living laboratory, a place where forces invisible to us perform experiments in light, dust, and plasma. The heart of this laboratory is the coma, the halo of vapor and dust streaming from the comet's nucleus. Sunlight strikes frozen carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, sending molecules flying into space. There, ultraviolet radiation splits them apart, creating ions, charged particles that dance under the influence of solar wind. Every plume, every jet, every faint sparkle of light is a reaction, a result of chemistry older than our planet itself. The comet is not just shining, it is teaching, demonstrating how matter behaves when ancient ice awakens under a new star. Pause here and picture the scene. Atlas drifts silently, tails stretching like banners. Invisible streams of particles wash over it, stripping electrons, bending trajectories, sculpting blue ribbons of plasma. Each movement is an experiment, each ripple a result. There are no observers close by, no hands adjusting dials. The comet conducts its work alone, unknowing yet precise. It is a laboratory without walls, and the cosmos itself is both experimenter and audience. Astronomers take advantage of this. With telescopes on Earth and in orbit, they watch the tails of Atlas like scientists reading instruments. When the plasma tail bends, they infer the strength of solar wind. When the dust tail ripples, they measure the density of grains. When spectra shift, they identify molecules. In this way, Atlas becomes not only a traveler, but a tool. Its very existence turns the invisible forces of space into visible patterns we can study. The plasma tail in particular is a vivid display. Unlike the dust tail, which curves gently along the comet's path, the plasma tail points straight away from the sun, sculpted directly by charged particles streaming outward. When solar storms erupt, the tail reacts dramatically, breaking, twisting, reconnecting. To the naked eye, these changes may seem subtle, but to instruments, they are revelations. They tell us about the behavior of magnetic fields, about the nature of turbulence in plasma, about processes that affect not only comets, but planets, stars, and galaxies. Think of Atlas, then, as both student and teacher. It submits to the forces acting upon it: sunlight, wind, dust, gravity. And in its submission, it reveals truths. It teaches us, not by speaking, but by being. To watch it is to attend a lecture written in vapor and light, to read a textbook whose pages are tales glowing softly against the dark. There is beauty in this image. The laboratory is not sterile or confined. It is vast, open, and alive. Its experiments are not controlled in the human sense, but they are real, repeatable, observable. Each comet becomes a new trial, each orbit a new set of conditions. Atlas is one trial among many, but it is unique in its origin, in its chemistry, in its retrograde passage. Its data are alien, its results fresh. It is the universe conducting research on itself, and we are the note-takers. Pause again and let yourself feel the wonder. Imagine standing far from Earth, watching Atlas drift through the black. Around it, invisible streams of energy and particles weave unseen but powerful. Then slowly, a blue tail unfurls, shimmering like silk, pointing away from the Sunday. A dust tail curves golden beside it. You realize you are watching forces made visible: plasma sculpted into light, dust carried into art. The comet is not simply glowing. It is revealing the hidden architecture of space. There is symbolism here too. We often think of laboratories as places of control, where humans impose order to extract knowledge. Atlas reminds us that the universe itself is already experimenting, already revealing. Knowledge does not always require control. Sometimes it requires only observation, only humility, to notice what is already unfolding. The laboratory of Atlas invites us not to dominate, but to witness. For scientists, this means data plots of ion densities, curves of spectral lines, graphs of brightness. For us lying back in the quiet, it means reassurance. The universe is not silent. It is alive, constantly at work, constantly revealing itself through travelers like Atlas. Even when we are small, even when we feel distant, we are part of this great experiment. We are its observers, its students, its participants. And perhaps, in a more poetic sense, Atlas shows us that we too are laboratories. Our lives are experiments shaped by forces we do not always control: time, chance, love, loss. We are sculpted, bent, sometimes broken, yet always revealing something about endurance, about meaning. Like Atlas, we shine not by resisting these forces, but by responding to them, turning collisions into lessons, fragility into beauty. So as you rest, imagine Atlas drifting onward, its laboratory unfolding silently in the dark. Tails ripple like banners of data comas, glow like equations written in mist. Solar wind plays across it, like fingers on strings, creating music too vast for ears, but perfect for the eyes of telescopes. The comet continues, fragile, yet instructive, luminous, yet temporary. And in its glow, we see not only a comet, but a classroom, one that teaches us about the universe, and perhaps about ourselves. Atlas will pass, but its lessons remain. The data gathered will be stored, studied, revisited for years to come. The images of its tails, the spectra of its breath, the ripples of its plasma will join the archives of human knowledge. And long after the comet fades from our sky, Its laboratory will still speak, reminding us of the night when an alien traveler became a teacher and the universe itself became the experiment. Picture a lantern glowing in the night. Its light is beautiful, but you know that the flame consumes the fuel inside. The brighter it burns, the more it loses. This is the paradox of comets, and it is the story of three, divided by Atlas. Its tails, those luminous banners streaming across space, are both its gift and its undoing. Threads of light unfurl, but each one is woven from loss. When sunlight touches the nucleus ice, sublimates releasing vapor and dust into space. These streams carried outward form, the coma and tails. To us, they are wonders, glowing softly in telescopic images, reminders of beauty in the vast dark. To Atlas, they are pieces of itself, fragments given away. The more it shines, the more it diminishes. Each plume is an exhalation, each dust grain a sacrifice. The comet glows, not by keeping but by letting go. Pause here, and let that thought settle. We often think of survival as holding on of strength, as resisting loss. But Atlas shows us another path to shine is to release. Its fragility is not failure, but transformation. In the act of losing it, becomes radiant. In the act of unraveling it, writes light across the heavens. There are two threads in its tapestry. The first is the dust tail, golden and curved, following the path of the comet. It is formed from particles too heavy to be swept directly by the solar wind. Instead, they linger, drifting slowly, trailing like a veil. This tail glows softly illuminated by sunlight, curving like a river of sparks. It is memory made visible, the path of the comet, traced behind it in particles that will drift for ages. The second thread is the plasma tail, straight and blue, pointing directly away from the Sunday. It is born from ions, light molecules carried swiftly by the solar wind. This tail responds to storms, breaking and reconnecting, fluttering like a ribbon in invisible hands. It is not memory, but reaction, a record of each moment's conditions alive with change. Together, the two tails weave a tapestry of permanence and impermanence, dust as memory, plasma as response. Astronomers read these threads like scientists examining handwriting. The dust tail tells of the comet's past, how much mass it has shed, what particles it carries. The plasma tail tells of the present, the solar wind's strength, the sun's moods. To study them is to study both comet and star, to see interaction made visible. Atlas does not speak in words, but in threads of light and loss. And we, watching, learn both about it and about ourselves. Think of the symbolism. Every human life weaves similar threads. The dust tail is memory, the traces we leave behind, the stories others carry of us. The plasma tail is presence, our responses to the world, our changes in each moment. We shine by giving ourselves away in words spoken in kindness, offered in love shared. Like Atlas we diminish, and yet grow luminous. Our loss is not emptiness, but gift. Pause again, and imagine standing in space watching Atlas drift. Behind it a golden arc of dust curves gracefully. Away from it, a blue ribbon stretches shimmering against starlight. Together they form wings, fragile but radiant, born of sacrifice. The comet does not resist this unraveling. It accepts it, becoming light for as long as it can. And in that acceptance lies its beauty. For astronomers, tails are data. For us, they are poetry. They remind us that nothing glows forever, but while it glows, it can be breathtaking. Atlas will lose mass, its nucleus shrinking, its surface scarred. One day, it may fragment, scattering entirely. Yet in this moment, it shines. Its loss is not the end, but the very act of becoming luminous. Other comets tell similar stories. Halley, returning every 76 years, glows as it sheds. Shoemaker Levy, 9 captured by Jupiter, broke apart its fragments, burning into the giant's atmosphere. Each comet glows briefly, loses pieces, and either survives or is destroyed. Atlas follows this pattern, but with an accent of alien chemistry, an orbit of difference. Its threads are unique, woven from an origin outside our system, colored by its CO2 breath. The fragility of Atlas is not weakness, it is truth. In fragility lies honesty. We see it unravel and cannot deny its impermanence. Yet that impermanence makes it precious. If Atlas were eternal, unchanging, we might ignore it. But because it glows only now, only once we cherish it. Its threads of light remind us that beauty is often born from transience, from the willingness to give itself away. So, as you rest, imagine Atlas weaving its tapestry across the sky. Each dust grain is a thread of memory, each ion a thread of response. Together they form wings of light, fragile, but enduring in their own way. The comet continues, glowing through loss, teaching through fragility. And in watching, we are reminded that our own threads matter too, that what we release, what we give, becomes our light. Atlas may one day vanish its nucleus, gone its dust, dispersed. But its threads will remain mingling with solar winds, drifting across the system, falling into planets as meteors. Its loss will seed new stories. Its unraveling will become part of something larger. The comet is not gone when it fades. It is transformed its light, woven into the fabric of the cosmos. Let this thought soothe you tonight, that fragility and loss are not endings but transformations, that to shine is to give, that even as we unravel, we weave beauty. Atlas glows because it breathes out threads of light, and in that glow we see the paradox of existence, luminous because of loss, radiant because of fragility, unforgettable because it cannot last. The story of Atlas is luminous and strange, but it is not the first of its kind. Before this lantern entered our skies, there were others, each with their own shape, their own voice, their own mystery. Together they form a small but powerful chorus, echoes of past visitors that remind us our solar system is not an island but a crossroads where travelers sometimes pass. The first of these echoes was Oumuamua, discovered in 2017. At first it seemed like just another asteroid, a faint dot against the stars. But its path betrayed its nature, a hyperbolic orbit, a speed too high, a direction too foreign. It was the first confirmed interstellar object, and it carried with it a silence that baffled us. Unlike comets, we know Oumuamua produced no coma, no tail. It reflected light strangely, its brightness flickering, as though its shape were elongated, perhaps cigar-like, perhaps a flattened shard. Some said it was rock, others ice. Some whispered it might even be something more, an artifact, a probe, a sail adrift in the galactic wind. Its silence left us only with questions, and its departure left us with longing. Then came Borisov, in 2019, the second interstellar visitor. Unlike Oumuamua, Borisov behaved like a comet should. It grew a coma, trailed a tail, released water and dust. But its chemistry was different, slightly alien, rich in carbon monoxide compared to our local comets. It was both familiar and strange, a bridge between what we knew and what we were learning. Borisov reassured us that interstellar visitors could be studied, could reveal truths, could behave in ways we recognized, even while carrying accents of other nurseries. And now Atlas, the third voice in this chorus. Like Oumuamua, it is mysterious with unusual chemistry. Like Borisov, it grows a coma and tails behaving as comets do. Yet it adds its own note: retrograde motion, CO2, dominated breath fragility in the face of the asteroid belt. It does not replace the others, but joins them, layering strangeness upon strangeness, difference upon difference. Together, they remind us that the galaxy is alive with wanderers, and we are only beginning to hear their echoes. Pause here and let yourself imagine the vastness of that chorus. For billions of years, countless comets and fragments have been ejected from their home systems. Most pass through empty space, unseen, unmeasured. A few happen to cross our lanterns, drifting briefly into our sight. Oumuamua, Borisov, Atlas, 3. We have noticed 3 out of untold millions. Their echoes are faint, but they are enough to remind us of scale, enough to remind us that we are not alone in silence. Astronomers study these echoes carefully. Each one adds a piece to the puzzle of galactic chemistry. Oumuamua's silence told us that interstellar objects can be rocky, inactive, and yet still carry mysteries. Borisov's behavior told us that alien comets exist with familiar yet different recipes. Atlas now tells us that some visitors breathe in unusual accents with carbon dioxide, where water should dominate. 3 notes, 3 variations, each broadening our understanding of the galactic symphony. Think of these visitors as travelers arriving at an inn on a lonely road. One comes quickly, says nothing, and departs Oumuamua, the silent stranger. Another arrives, eats and drinks, behaving like any guest but with food spiced differently. Borisov, the familiar guest with an accent. And then comes Atlas, carrying a lantern of unusual light, speaking with words we half understand, half imagine. The inn remains, the road continues, and more travelers will pass. Each one leaves behind echoes, stories, data, memories, that remind us we are part of something larger than ourselves. For humanity, these echoes matter deeply. They remind us that the Milky Way is not just backdrop. It is a living, moving system, sending gifts across its arms. To study these gifts is to study not only the galaxy, but ourselves. For the elements we carry, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, were once carried 2 drifting between stars seeded across systems. Oumuamua, Borisov, Atlas. Each is an echo of the processes that made us possible. They are not only visitors, they are kin. Pause again and breathe with that thought. To see a comet is to see history in motion. To see an interstellar comet is to see galactic history, a story that transcends our sun, our Earth, our time. These echoes tell us that matter is shared, that stars are not isolated, that the galaxy is one great web of exchange. Every fragment drifting across it is a thread weaving suns and planets into one vast fabric. The echoes also remind us of humility. We often speak of exploring the stars, of sending ships outward, of seeking life elsewhere. Yet before we reach them, they reach us. These visitors arrive uninvited, unannounced, carrying data and meaning without needing our permission. We are not only explorers, we are hosts. And to be a host is to listen, to pay attention, to honor the guest before it departs. Oumuamua is gone, fading into interstellar night. Borisov too has left its coma, long dispersed. Atlas will leave soon once it survives or fails to survive the gauntlet of the asteroid belt. Their visits are brief, but their echoes linger. Data archived in observatories, spectra stored on servers, images printed in books. And in our minds, their presence glows still. Echoes do not vanish quickly. They resonate long after the sound has faded. So, as you rest tonight, let yourself hear those echoes. A silent shard tumbling a comet glowing with alien chemistry. A lantern breathing carbon dioxide into our sky. They are not loud, not forceful. They are subtle, faint, gentle. Yet in their gentleness lies their gift. They remind us that the universe is not quiet but filled with whispers. They remind us that we are part of a dialogue far older than humanity, far larger than Earth. Atlas, Oumuamua, Borisov. 3 notes in a cosmic song. 3 visitors, 3 echoes, 3 reminders that the galaxy is alive with motion. They come, they glow, they go, and in their passing they leave us with wonder. Every traveler follows a road. For humans, the roads are paved, drawn on maps, guided by signs. For comets, the roads are invisible, carved not by hands, but by forces deeper than stone. The road of three, I, divided by Atlas, is not one of choice, but one written long ago when it was first cast out of its birth system. That road is written in gravity. Gravity is the great sculptor of paths. It bends light anchors, planets, guides, moons, and even steers the smallest grains of dust. It is silent, invisible, and absolute. For Atlas, gravity is the reason it moves, as it does, sweeping along a hyperbolic arc, diving through our solar system before vanishing back into the night. Its eccentricity of 6 is not a decision. It is an inheritance momentum preserved over millions of years. Pause here and imagine gravity not as a force, but as a hand. This hand does not push or pull roughly. It cradles, it steers, it shapes. Atlas has been carried by this hand across unthinkable distances. It does not resist. It cannot resist. It yields, and in yielding it follows a line written by stars and planets unseen. Its path is not rebellion, but obedience to a deeper rhythm, the rhythm of mass and motion. Astronomers plot this rhythm with precision. Each observation of Atlas is added to a model refining its trajectory. They calculate where it came from, where it is going, and how close it will pass to other bodies. They know it will not strike. Earth will not linger in orbit, will not be captured. Its path is too fast, too steep, too free. Yet in the details, its swing past Mars, its threading through the asteroid belt, its distant departure, they find poetry. This is not just a comet. It is a letter written in the language of gravity, and we are reading its script. Consider how gravity has shaped its journey so far. Perhaps once long ago, it orbited another star. A passing giant planet may have kicked it outward, flinging it into exile. Since then, it has drifted through galactic space, passing near stars, perhaps brushing the edges of other systems. Each encounter bent its path slightly, like edits to a draft, until finally chance steered it toward our Sunday. Gravity did not plan this, but it made it possible. Atlas is not here by intention, but by inevitability. There is comfort in this inevitability. We often struggle with uncertainty, with paths that seem unclear. Yet Atlas reminds us that some journeys are written into the fabric of the universe itself. Its line is not chaotic. It is calculable, predictable, knowable. That knowledge soothes us. We know where it has been, we know where it is going, and we know it will continue beyond us. Its story is not random, but ordered a poem written in equations. Pause again and let yourself feel the scale. Imagine standing in space, watching Atlas glide. You cannot see gravity, but you can see its work. The comet curves smoothly, tails streaming, nucleus steady. Around it, planets orbit asteroids, drift, the sun glows at the center. All are bound by the same hand, all steered by the same rhythm. To watch Atlas is to watch gravity's handwriting stretched across the sky. Its retrograde motion adds to the drama. Against the flow, Atlas cuts its line sharply, yet gravity still governs it. No matter how unusual its angle, it is still part of the great choreography. The solar system is like a dance hall with planets spinning in one direction. Atlas enters moving the other way, yet still following steps dictated by the music. The music is gravity, and no dancer escapes its song. For astronomers, Atlas's path is both reassurance and opportunity. Reassurance, because its trajectory proves it will not endanger us. Opportunity, because every bend, every shift, every subtle arc is a chance to learn. By watching Atlas, we study not only the comet, but the solar wind, the sun's influence, and the gravitational interplay of asteroids and planets. The path is not just a journey, it is a map, a record of countless forces intersecting. Think, too, of the symbolism. Our own lives often feel like choices turns, we take roads we follow. Yet beneath those choices are currents. We do not control the gravity of history, the pull of circumstance, the mass of our past. Atlas reminds us that to follow a path is not weakness. It is part of belonging to a larger fabric. Its road is not self-chosen, yet it is still luminous, still meaningful. So are ours. One day soon Atlas will leave the solar system. Its path will carry it outward, away from the sun's pull, back into interstellar night. It will not stop. It cannot stop. Gravity will still hold it not to our star, but to the galaxy itself. It will orbit the Milky Way, a tiny ember drifting through the spiral arms, its line continuing perhaps forever. That line, too, is written in gravity, the larger rhythm that binds stars and planets alike. So as you rest tonight, picture Atlas's path, not as random but as calligraphy. Each curve is a stroke, each angle, a letter, each departure, a sentence. Together they form a poem we can read, even if the comet itself cannot. Gravity is the pen, the universe, the paper, and Atlas the ink. It glows only briefly, but the writing endures, etched into our understanding. Atlas is not ours to keep, but while it passes, it reveals the deeper truth that nothing moves alone, nothing drifts without context. Every body, every traveler, every fragment follows a path written in gravity. And in that handwriting, we glimpse order in the vastness music, in the silence beauty, in inevitability. Every story of a comet carries both wonder and risk. To watch a glowing traveler drift across the sky is to feel awe. But behind the beauty lies fragility. These objects are not invulnerable. They are small, brittle, ancient fragments, vulnerable to forces larger than themselves. For 3, I divided by Atlas, threading its way through the asteroid belt. The question naturally arises, what if it collides? Astronomers remind us that the probability is low. Space, though filled with countless bodies, is mostly empty. The distance between asteroids is immense, the chance of a direct impact tiny. Yet possibility lingers, and with it comes both caution and imagination. For in a universe where collisions shape planets, moons, and histories, even a small chance carries weight. Pause here and imagine the scene. Atlas glowing faintly tails, streaming like banners, drifts silently through the belt. Around it, grey stones of every size orbit, the sun relics of worlds that never were. Most lie far apart, harmless in their distance. Yet even one pebble no larger than a grain of sand striking at 60 kilometers per second could scar or even shatter the fragile nucleus. In that silence, a single unseen impact could decide the fate of a traveler from another star. The idea of collision is not foreign to us. We know our Earth was shaped by them. The moon itself was born from a colossal impact, a collision that forever altered our planet's destiny. Craters scar every world we see, the moon, Mars, Mercury, even Earth, if you look closely enough. Collisions are the universe's chisels sculpting landscapes, ending eras, beginning new ones. For Atlas, the stakes are smaller in scale, but no less profound. A single strike could erase a story carried for billions of years. Astronomers play out scenarios. A minor collision might chip the comet, opening new vents, triggering brighter outgassing. To us, it would appear as a sudden flare, a burst of light, marking a wound. A larger collision could break it into fragments, each glowing with its own coma, scattering into a family of smaller comets. To telescopes, this would be dramatic, a cascade of light across the sky. But for Atlas itself, it would be an end of unity, a life transformed into pieces. And the most extreme scenario, a direct hit with a large asteroid, would obliterate it, dispersing alien dust across the belt, erasing the lantern forever. Pause again and let that possibility soften in your mind. Destruction is frightening, yes, but it is also transformation. If Atlas shattered, its fragments would not vanish. They would continue on smaller lanterns, glowing briefly before fading. Its dust would mingle with the zodiacal cloud, perhaps even falling one day into Earth's skies, as meteors, tiny streaks of alien matter burning in our atmosphere. Even in destruction, Atlas would leave a legacy. There is symbolism here deeply human. We fear collisions in our own lives, conflicts, losses, sudden disruptions. Yet often what feels like shattering becomes transformation. Fragments carry forward seeds of new stories. Atlas reminds us that even if the worst occurs, even if a collision ends one chapter, another begins. The dust of ruin becomes the glow of wonder. Scientists too see opportunity. A collision, though unlikely, would provide rare data. Observing the chemistry of fragments, the dynamics of disintegration, the brightness of sudden outgassing all, would teach us about the structure and composition of interstellar comets. Yet such knowledge would be bittersweet, for it would come at the cost of the traveler itself. The beauty of Atlas lies not only in what it could reveal, but in the fact that it still glows whole. Think of Shoemaker Levy 9, a comet captured by Jupiter and broken into fragments before colliding with the giant in 1994. Astronomers watched as each fragment struck the planet, creating fireballs larger than Earth. It was destruction, but it was also revelation. We learned about Jupiter's atmosphere, about impact physics, about energy on scales hard to imagine. Atlas too could one day meet such a fate. If it does, it will teach even as it vanishes. For now, though, Atlas endures. It glides onward fragile, but intact, glowing as it loses itself slowly to sunlight, rather than suddenly to collision. The possibility remains, but possibility is not destiny. And perhaps that is part of the lesson. To live is always to face chances of collision, of disruption. Yet most of the time, we pass safely, quietly through the gauntlet. The dust brushes us, but we continue. The lantern glows a little longer. So as you drift toward rest, imagine Atlas moving among the ruins of the asteroid belt. Silent stones drift around it, indifferent, ancient. The comet glows softly fragile, yet radiant, weaving its path with care. The storm of dust presses against it, but it endures. Collisions may come, but they have not come yet. And in this moment, the lantern still shines, a visitor still alive with meaning. If one day it shatters, we will remember it. If one day it survives, we will cherish its endurance. Either way, its story will remain written in data, in dust, in memory. The question of collision is not only about danger. It is about transformation, about legacy, about the truth that even endings are not truly ends. Atlas drifts on luminous against the void. Whether it collides or not, it has already given us its gift, the chance to wonder, to imagine, to listen. And in that gift, it becomes part of us forever. Imagine watching a flag ripple in the wind. You cannot see the wind itself, but the fabric tells you it is there. Each flutter, each snap, each wave, a visible trace of the invisible. In Space 3, I divided by Atlas carries such a flag. Its plasma tail, long and blue ripples under the unseen currents of the solar wind. And in those ripples lies both science and poetry, waves of plasma, whispers of storms. The solar wind is a stream of charged particles flowing outward from the sunday. It is constant, yet it changes in strength, carrying with it storms from solar flares and coronal mass ejections. To Earth, these storms bring auroras, dancing curtains of light across polar skies. To comets, they bring turbulence, bending and breaking their plasma tails, turning them into living banners that reveal the shape of the wind. For Atlas, the solar wind is both sculptor and storyteller. Pause here and imagine the scene. The comet glides silently, its coma glowing faintly. From it extends a blue ribbon of plasma, pointing always away from the Sunday. Suddenly, a burst of solar particles strikes. The ribbon ripples, bends, perhaps even disconnects, torn away before reconnecting again. To telescopes, this looks like a shimmer, a sudden change. To us, it looks like breath made visible, the universe exhaling across light years. Astronomers study these ripples carefully. They are natural experiments tests that reveal how plasma behaves under turbulence. Each disconnection event teaches about magnetic reconnection, about how charged particles move in storms. Atlas becomes a laboratory once more, not of chemistry this time, but of plasma physics. It is a fragile traveler, yet it holds within it the ability to reveal truths about forces that shape stars, planets, even galaxies. The whispers of storms are subtle. Unlike thunder on Earth, they do not roar. They pass silently, revealed only in the comet's tail. And yet, they are immense. A solar storm can stretch across millions of kilometers, carrying energy beyond comprehension. Atlas, small and fragile, responds visibly. Its plasma tail is the fabric in the wind, fluttering with each invisible gust. By watching, we see what cannot be seen directly. Think of the symbolism here. Our own lives are touched by storms, not always visible, not always loud. Sometimes they are subtle, a change in mood, a moment of pressure, a shift we cannot name. Yet we feel them, and we respond. Our actions, our words, our choices ripple like a tail in the wind. Atlas reminds us that fragility does not mean silence. Even the smallest traveler reveals the largest forces simply by existing within them. Pause again and picture standing in space, watching Atlas's tail shimmer. At first it streams smoothly, a blue line against the dark. Then a wave passes, bending it, twisting it, breaking it, before it reforms. You realize you are watching not just a comet, but the voice of the sun carried across space. The storm has no sound, but the comet translates it into light. This is the poetry of plasma, the invisible made visible, the silent given form. Other comets have shown such whispers. Astronomers have long observed tails disconnecting, suddenly severed, as if cut by unseen hands. Shoemaker-Levy, 9 Halley, and countless others have fluttered under solar storms. Each one becomes a flag of the cosmos waving in winds that never cease. Atlas, with its alien chemistry and retrograde path, adds a new accent to this universal story. Its plasma is not exactly like ours. Its response may differ, teaching us about diversity in the same language of storms. For scientists, this means equations, magnetohydrodynamics, graphs of ion density. For us drifting into rest, it means reassurance. The universe is not static. It breathes it, moves it, whispers through invisible currents. And though we cannot touch or hear these storms, we can see their traces in a comet's glow. That reminder is soothing. We are part of a living system, connected by winds that flow from the same star that warms our days. There is also a lesson in resilience. The plasma tail may disconnect, may flutter wildly, but the comet continues. It does not vanish because a storm tears its tail. It grows another, reforms, continues its path. Loss is not end. Disruption is not ruin. Atlas shows us that persistence is not about avoiding storms, but about surviving them, regrowing what is lost, continuing forward, with light still streaming. As Atlas threads the asteroid belt, these storms are constant companions. Some are gentle, others fierce. Each one writes itself into the tail, leaving patterns. We can study metaphors, we can feel. The comet becomes both fragile and strong, fragile in what it endures, strong in how it endures. That duality is its gift to us. So as you rest tonight, imagine Atlas drifting through invisible winds, Its plasma tail stretches like a ribbon of light, fluttering, breaking, reconnecting. Each ripple is a whisper of a storm that began on the sun, traveled millions of kilometers, and found expression in a fragile comet. The storms will pass. The comet will continue, and in its glow, we see both science and solace, waves of plasma, whispers of storms, lessons carried gently into our night. Atlas glows. Atlas endures. Atlas translates the silence of space into beauty. And as you drift into dreams, let those whispers remind you that even storms can be gentle, even fragility can be radiant, and even in the vastness of night, there is always light to guide you. When we imagine cosmic danger, we often think of giant asteroids, vast collisions, explosions that echo across space. But for comets like 3I divided by Atlas, the real threat is far smaller. Not mountains of rock, not planets waiting in its path, but dust and pebbles, tiny fragments scattered through the solar system. At its incredible speed, even a pebble is a weapon, even a grain of sand, a storm. To move through this invisible rain is to face constant trial, a quiet barrage of impacts that shape, and sometimes end a comet's journey. Atlas moves at 60 kilometers per second, fast enough that a speck no larger than a seed could strike with devastating energy. Imagine walking through a gentle rain droplets, landing softly on your skin. Now imagine each droplet is steel, each one striking not with cool refreshment, but with heat and force. That is the rain Atlas faces, invisible, relentless, transforming. Pause here and picture the scene. The comet drifts its coma, glowing faintly, tails stretching like luminous wings. Around it, unseen to the eye, countless particles move dust. From asteroids, colliding fragments of older comets, grains left over from the birth of the solar system. Each one drifts silently until Atlas passes, and then, in an instant, becomes a strike, a burst of energy, a scar on the surface of an ancient traveler. The Rain of Pebbles is not dramatic to watch, but it is powerful in its persistence. Astronomers understand this process well. They see it in the way comets fade in sudden outbursts, triggered by impacts in unexpected changes of brightness. Some comets, weakened by repeated collisions, break apart entirely, their fragments scattering across new orbits. Others survive scarred but luminous, carrying on with new vents, new plumes, new stories etched into their surfaces. Atlas, with its alien chemistry and fragile structure, is vulnerable yet resilient. Each pebble tests it, but each test reveals more of its character. Think of the symbolism here. Our own lives are shaped not only by grand events, but by small daily impacts. A word spoken, a disappointment endured, a challenge faced quietly. Each is a pebble, striking the surface of who we are. Over time, they carve us, scar us, shape us into something new. Like Atlas, we glow not because we are untouched, but because we endure the rain. Pause again and let yourself feel that connection. Imagine Atlas glowing through the invisible barrage. Each particle that strikes it releases a puff of dust, a flare of light, a ripple in its coma. The impacts are not visible individually, but their sum is written in brightness, in tails, that shift in scars we cannot see but can measure. The comet does not resist. It accepts. It continues. It shines. Some impacts may even awaken it further. A pebble striking a sealed pocket of ice may crack the crust, releasing a sudden jet of gas. To telescopes, this appears as an outburst, a brightening that seems spontaneous. In truth, it is collision turned into revelation. Atlas breathes more deeply because a pebble knocked open its lungs. Even in damage, there is transformation. Even in loss, there is gift. Other comets remind us of this story. The Rosetta mission watched Comet 67P endure constant impacts from dust. Tiny meteoroids peppered its surface, each one too small to see, but large enough to leave scars. Shoemaker Levy 9 was torn apart after too many stresses, ending its life in Jupiter's embrace. Atlas, though alien in origin, faces the same trials. The Rain of Pebbles does not spare it because it is different. It is universal, part of the shared language of all comets. Astronomers model these risks with care. They know Atlas may fragment suddenly, its fragile nucleus breaking under the combined weight of heat and impact. Or it may endure losing mass but surviving, carrying onward into the inner solar system. Either way, the rain leaves its mark, shaping the story, turning silence into light. There is comfort in this inevitability. We too cannot avoid the rain of pebbles in our lives. Small impacts will come, trials will shape us, but like Atlas, we can continue, we can glow, even as we are scarred, shine, even as we lose pieces of ourselves. The comet reminds us that fragility is not defeat. It is part of the journey, part of the beauty. So as you rest, imagine Atlas drifting through the unseen storm. Around it, particles rush past, silent but powerful. Some strike, some miss, all test. Yet the comet glows, still, its tails shimmering, its coma breathing. Each scar becomes light, each loss becomes beauty. The rain does not end the lantern, it makes the lantern visible. Atlas may one day fragment its body, broken by too many collisions. If it does, its dust will scatter into the solar system, becoming meteors glowing briefly in Earth's skies, joining our nights with streaks of alien fire. Even in breaking, it will share itself. Even in loss, it will leave wonder. That is the paradox of the Rain of Pebbles. Danger, yes, but also gift, shaping light from fragility. Let that thought soothe you tonight. Atlas continues, enduring the invisible rain, fragile, yet luminous. Each pebble reminds it of its mortality, yet each glow reminds us of its meaning. We too live under rains unseen, and like Atlas we can turn them into light. When astronomers look at comets, they expect nature ice dust chemistry unfolding under sunlight. But sometimes imagination lingers just behind the data. Sometimes the strangeness of an object invites whispers of possibility. What if this is not only natural? What if, hidden within its fragility, there lies intention? For 3, I divided by Atlas, with its alien chemistry retrograde path, and luminous. Fragility, the thought arises, like a shadow. Could it be a machine? The idea is not scientific consensus, but curiosity. After Oumuamua, in 2017, many asked the same question. Its lack of coma, its strange brightness, its acceleration without a visible cause, all seem to hint at something artificial, perhaps a light sail drifting through interstellar space. Most astronomers leaned toward natural explanations, but the whisper remained. Now with Atlas, those whispers return. Pause here and let yourself imagine. A fragile comet, drifting through the asteroid belt, glowing faintly with carbon dioxide breath. To the eye, it is only dust and gas. But beneath the glow, what if there were more? What if buried in the nucleus, there were structures, hollows, not of chance, but of design? What if the tales we see are not only chemistry, but signals? To wonder, this is not to claim, but to place a dream. Astronomers have searched for signs, unusual light curves, repeating patterns, radio emissions. With Atlas, nothing definitive has been found. Its spectrum shows carbon dioxide. Its coma behaves like a comet's, its orbit follows gravity's dictates. Yet the very alienness of its chemistry keeps the door ajar. Its carbon dioxide dominance feels like a voice in a strange accent, one that reminds us we do not yet know all the dialects of the galaxy. Could some accents belong not to nature, but to machines? Think of the symbolism. Machines whisper too, not in language, but in function. A probe sent into space hums faintly with energy antennas turning instruments recording. It does not shout, it whispers. If Atlas was such a machine, its whisper would be faint, nearly drowned in the noise of cosmic dust. Yet faint whispers can be powerful. Faint whispers can change how we see ourselves. Pause again and imagine yourself on Earth, listening through a radio telescope. The dish is wide, the signals faint. Most are static cosmic background, the endless hum of stars. But then just for a moment, there is a spike, a pattern, something unexpected. Is it only noise? Or is it a machine whispering across light years? The thought lingers, and with it comes wonder. Even if Atlas is natural, it still becomes a machine of a different kind, a machine of knowledge. The universe has engineered it without intention, yet it serves as an instrument. By watching its tails, we learn about solar winds. By measuring its chemistry, we glimpse alien nurseries. By tracing its orbit, we understand the fabric of gravity. It is both traveler and tool, both lantern and laboratory. In this sense, it whispers not with radio, but with light itself. There is comfort in this duality. To dream of machines hidden in comets is to stretch imagination. To know comets themselves are machines of nature is to stretch understanding. Either way, we are reminded that the cosmos is alive with messages, some written by intention, others by accident, all waiting for us to notice. Think, too, of the deeper metaphor. Machines, after all, are extensions of us. They are our way of reaching farther, lasting longer, surviving where we cannot. To imagine another civilization embedding machines in comets is to imagine others reaching too, others sending whispers into the dark. Atlas may not be such a whisper, but to wonder is to connect. It is to feel less alone in a galaxy where silence often seems endless. Other cultures have long spoken of stars and comets as messengers. Ancient peoples saw omens, signs of change, voices of gods. Today we see data spectra ratios. But perhaps the truth is not so far apart. Both ways of seeing recognize that comets carry messages. Whether divine, natural, or mechanical, the meaning lies in how we listen. Atlas whispers. What we hear depends on what we are ready to believe. Pause once more and picture Atlas drifting silently, tails glowing, nucleus breathing. It does not move like a spacecraft. It does not shine with artificial lights. It is as far as we know natural, and yet the very act of imagining otherwise expands us. It softens the boundary between what we know and what we wonder. It invites us to dream of machines hidden in stone, of whispers carried in dust of neighbors we have not yet met. For astronomers, the whisper of machines is hypothesis rarely proven, often doubted. For us resting in the quiet, it is story. A story that says, perhaps we are not the only ones who build, who reach, who dream. Perhaps somewhere long ago, another civilization launched its own lanterns into space. Perhaps Atlas is not only alien in chemistry, but in purpose. Perhaps, and even if not, the thought itself is a gift. Wonder keeps us awake to possibility, and possibility is the first step toward discovery. Atlas is fragile, temporary, fleeting. But in its glow, it sparks whispers of storms, of machines, of voices we cannot yet decode. That whisper is enough. So as you drift into sleep, let Atlas's light become a voice in your mind. It may be only ice and dust, a natural traveler from a distant nursery. Or it may be more a lantern, carrying a whisper of machines across the stars. Either way, it invites you to listen, to dream, to imagine a universe where silence is never truly empty, where even comets can carry messages, and where wonder itself is the most important signal of all. Every comet faces a question. Will it endure or will it break? For 3, I divided by Atlas, fragile and alien, threading its way through dust and storms. The question is sharper than most. Its nucleus is small, its structure brittle, its breath of carbon dioxide, leaving it hollowed. The pressures mount as it journeys closer to the sun, as it faces the gauntlet of impacts, as it weathers storms of plasma. And so astronomers ask quietly, dreamers ask loudly, will Atlas shatter, or will it survive to give us its gift? Comets are notorious for breaking apart. They are not solid rock, but fragile mixtures of ice dust and void, bound loosely vulnerable to heat and stress. Some crumble quietly, fading into dust before ever reaching perihelion. Others fragment suddenly like glass, shattering in silence, their pieces scattering into glowing arcs. To us on Earth, these events appear as brightening, sudden plumes, fading tails. To the comet, it is dissolution and unraveling of identity. Pause here and imagine the moment. Atlas glows faintly, its tails stretched like wings. Suddenly, fissures deepen. A vent erupts too strongly, tearing the nucleus apart. The single lantern becomes many fragments, tumbling, each glowing with its own coma. What was once one traveler becomes a family of smaller lights scattering into the dark. It is an end, but it is also a spectacle. The shattering is not silent. It is luminous, radiant, unforgettable. If Atlas shatters the dust, it releases will join the solar system. Grains of alien chemistry carried across light years will scatter into orbits that may last for centuries. Some may drift toward Earth burning, as meteors, streaks of light across our skies. Imagine looking up and seeing a meteor shower, knowing that each spark is a fragment of Atlas, a gift from another star, a visitor's dust becoming part of our world. In that sense, destruction is not loss. It is transformation gift wrapped in fragility. Astronomers speak of this with mixed feelings. On one hand, shattering robs us of a coherent nucleus of long-term study. On the other, it provides unprecedented opportunities. New surfaces revealed new chemistry, exposed fresh data to record. A comet that breaks apart speaks more loudly in its death than in its life. It tells us about internal structure, about cohesion, about how ice and dust bind across billions of years. Atlas, if it shatters, will not vanish quietly. It will write its final chapter in light. But what if it survives? What if, despite fragility, it holds together, crossing the asteroid belt, enduring the rain of pebbles, withstanding the whispers of storms? Then it will continue onward, its nucleus intact, its coma glowing its tails, streaming. It will not vanish in one brilliant moment, but endure as a steady lantern carrying its chemistry deeper into our solar system before departing again into the dark. Survival itself would be a gift, proof of resilience, of persistence, of endurance, across impossible odds. Pause again and let yourself feel the balance. On one side, shattering loss, transformation, beauty in finality. On the other side, survival, endurance, continuation, beauty in persistence. Both are gifts different, but meaningful. Atlas does not know which it will choose. It cannot choose. Its fate is written in its structure, in the collisions it faces in the heat of the Sunday. Yet whichever path it takes, it speaks to us. The lesson is not in the outcome, but in the journey. Think of the symbolism. We too face moments where we fear breaking. Pressures mount, cracks, deepen collisions, test us. Sometimes we fracture, lose pieces of ourselves, scatter into fragments. Other times we endure, carrying forward with scars, but intact. Both experiences shape us. Both can be gifts. To shatter is to reveal what lies inside. To endure is to prove strength. Atlas in its fragility mirrors this truth. History offers examples. Comet Ison in 2013 promised brilliance, but broke apart near the Sun, leaving only dust. Shoemaker Levy. 9 shattered under Jupiter's gravity, its fragments burning spectacularly in the giant's atmosphere. Others, like Halley, endure across centuries, returning again and again to remind us of continuity. Atlas could join either group. It could vanish in a cascade of fragments or endure as a steady lantern. Either way, it leaves a mark. For scientists monitoring this fate is a vigil. Telescopes track its brightness, looking for sudden flares or fading. Models predict stresses, but predictions remain uncertain. Fragility is unpredictable, survival uncertain. Each observation is a heartbeat, each glow a sign of life, each flicker a possible farewell. Watching Atlas is like watching a candle in wind. You cannot know if it will burn long or fade suddenly. All you can do is cherish the light while it glows. So as you drift into rest, imagine Atlas suspended in possibility. Its nucleus cracks and heals its tails stream and shift. It may break, scattering into dust that will one day fall into our skies as meteors. Or it may endure glowing longer, carrying its alien chemistry past the sun and outward again. Both paths are luminous. Both are meaningful. The comet's fate is not tragedy, but poetry. And perhaps this is the deepest gift of all, that in uncertainty we find beauty. Atlas teaches us that outcomes matter less than presence, that fragility itself can carry wonder, that both shattering and survival are ways of giving. Whether as dust in our skies or as light in our telescopes, Atlas shares itself. Its story does not end in silence. It ends in gift. Let that thought soothe you tonight. Atlas may shatter, Atlas may endure. Either way, it glows. Either way, it gives. And, in its fragile lantern carried across light years, we see ourselves fragile, luminous, uncertain, yet always capable of turning even endings into gifts. Every traveler eventually faces a question: will it remain or will it depart? For planets, the answer is permanence, locked in orbits that last billions of years. For comets, the answer varies. Some are captured, bound to return again and again, while others pass only once, never to be seen again. For three, divided by Atlas, the question is sharper than ever. Will it be bound or will it remain free? Its orbit tells much of the story. The eccentricity of Atlas is greater than one hyperbolic open-ended. This means it is not tied to the sun, not part of the family of returning comets. It is a visitor, not a resident. Unless some immense gravitational accident occurs, it will not stay. Jupiter could, in theory, alter its path, capturing or ejecting it in new directions. But the odds are slim. Atlas is moving too fast, its freedom too deep, its road too straight. Its likely fate is departure free, once more fading into interstellar night. Pause here and picture the path. Atlas approaches the sun, flaring with light as its ices awaken. It threads the asteroid belt, endures dust, storms, survives whispers of plasma. Then slowly it swings around, tails stretching, and begins its climb outward again. Past Mars, past Jupiter, past Neptune, into the Oort cloud and beyond. Eventually it crosses the boundary, where the sun's pull weakens to almost nothing, and there it is, free again, a lantern drifting into galactic dark. Its visit brief, its memory eternal, yet the possibility of capture lingers. If a close encounter with a giant planet altered its speed just right, Atlas could be slowed, trapped into a long elliptical orbit. Then, like Halley or Enki, it would return glowing again after decades or centuries. Imagine that Atlas becoming part of our solar family, an adopted comet carrying alien chemistry, its CO2 breath, joining our skies again and again. Captivity would mean familiarity, a chance to study it in cycles. Freedom would mean rarity, a once-in-eternity glimpse. Both possibilities carry meaning. To be bound is to belong, to join a family, to repeat and return. To be free is to remain wild, to wander without ties, to touch briefly before departing. Atlas, by its nature, leans toward freedom. Its speed is too great. its orbit too sharp. Yet in imagining capture, we glimpse what belonging might mean for an interstellar traveler. Both outcomes are mirrors of our own lives. Sometimes we belong, sometimes we wander. Both are true, both are beautiful. Astronomers calculate probabilities, but the human heart feels more than numbers. Bound or free Atlas already matters. Its presence has already taught us, already touched us. The gift lies not in how long it stays, but in the fact that it came at all. Freedom makes it rare precious in its brevity. Captivity would make it familiar precious in its return. Either way, we are enriched. Pause again and think of yourself under the night sky. You look up, and Atlas glows faintly in the telescope's eye. You know it will not stay yet. You feel connected to it. In that moment, bound or free does not matter. The connection is real. The light is shared. The universe allows encounters without permanence beauty, without ownership. That too is a lesson. History reminds us of this. Oumuamua came and went free forever, never bound to our Sunday. Borisov passed too, another brief visitor. Both were free, and yet they changed how we see our galaxy. They proved we are not alone in silence, that other systems send travelers too. Atlas joins them, the third echo in a chorus of freedom. Bound or not, its story already belongs to us. There is also philosophy here. Freedom can feel lonely, drifting without anchor, without return. But freedom can also feel expansive, unlimited, open, unending. Captivity can feel safe, predictable, cyclical, familiar. But captivity can also feel limiting, constrained, repetitive, enclosed. Atlas in its orbit embodies the tension we feel in our own lives. Do we belong to routines, to circles, to families? Or do we wander free but fleeting, brief but luminous? Perhaps like comets we do both. Astronomers know the truth. Atlas will almost certainly remain free. Its speed is too great to be held, its eccentricity too sharp. It will pass once shine and then vanish into night. That knowledge can feel bittersweet, like watching a guest leave too soon. But it can also feel profound. For freedom itself is beautiful, even when brief. To see Atlas at all is to be reminded of the galaxy's vast exchanges, the endless sharing of travelers. So, as you drift tonight, picture Atlas at the crossroads. One path loops back, binding it to return to glow again and again. The other path continues outward, releasing it forever, carrying it back into the arms of the Milky Way. Both paths shimmer. Both are luminous. And though one is more likely, both speak to us bound or free. The journey is meaningful, the gift is real. Atlas is fragile, fleeting, luminous. It is visitor, not resident. And yet, in passing, it binds us not by gravity, but by wonder. Bound or free, it reminds us that encounters matter, that beauty does not need permanence, that light can be gift, even when it lasts only once. When we look into a mirror, we expect to see ourselves. Yet sometimes a mirror shows more. It reveals not only our face, but the light around us, the shadows behind us, the truth of where we stand. In this way, I, divided by Atlas, is a mirror. It reflects not our image, but our place in the universe. As it drifts across our skies, fragile and luminous, it becomes a mirror of stars, reminding us who we are and where we belong. Atlas is small, only a few kilometers wide. It is fragile, shedding dust and gas, glowing because it loses itself. And yet in its fragility, it carries the weight of billions of years. Its ices hold the memory of another nursery, another star, another time. In watching it, we glimpse not only a comet, but a reflection of galactic history. Its coma is not only vapor, it is the breath of ancient processes preserved and released. Its tales are not only light, they are threads woven from exile and endurance. Pause here and imagine Atlas as a mirror hung in the night sky. Through it we see not only dust and chemistry, but ourselves. We see our own fragility, our own endurance, our own longing for meaning. The comet is alien, yet it reflects our humanity. It is transient, yet it mirrors our desire to make transience luminous. The mirror does not distort, it clarifies. Astronomers study Atlas with instruments seeking data, measuring spectra, calculating orbits. But beyond the numbers lies something deeper: reflection. To know that Atlas is interstellar is to know that we are not alone in silence. To measure its chemistry is to realize the galaxy is varied, creative, full of recipes beyond our own. To watch its tails ripple in solar storms is to feel the invisible winds that also touch us. Science gathers facts, but reflection gathers meaning. Atlas offers both. Think of how a mirror doubles light. It does not create, but it amplifies. Atlas does the same. The sun's light strikes it, and in reflecting it becomes visible. Without reflection, it would remain unseen, a dark rock in endless space. With reflection, it glows, it speaks, it teaches. In this, Atlas mirrors our own role. We too reflect light, not always creating brilliance, but amplifying it, sharing it, turning it into stories and kindness. Like Atlas, our power lies in how we reflect. Pause again and picture the comet drifting outward. Its tails unfurl like luminous wings, mirrors themselves catching sunlight and scattering it into color. Around it, stars gleam in the background, distant but eternal. The comet reflects them too, a moving shard of starlight against the canvas of the night. In Atlas, the stars see themselves, and in Atlas, we see the stars. There is also humility in this mirror. It reminds us of scale. We are small, fragile, brief. Our civilizations rise and fall in the time it takes a comet to drift from one star to another. Yet in that smallness there is beauty. To be able to notice, to reflect, to wonder, that is our gift. Atlas passes, but in passing it reminds us that noticing is enough. To reflect on what we see is to belong to the universe. Other comets have mirrored us before. Oumuamua, silent and strange, reflected our hunger for mystery. Borisov reflected our recognition of kinship, a comet that felt both familiar and alien. Atlas now reflects fragility, endurance, and the gift of light through loss. Each visitor is a different mirror, showing us different facets of ourselves, reminding us that the galaxy is full of reflections waiting to be seen. Imagine now, as you drift toward rest, that you stand before this cosmic mirror. In it, you see not your face, but your place. You see Earth fragile and blue, lit by the same sun that awakens Atlas. You see the Milky Way vast and spiraling, full of countless travelers like this one. You see yourself small but luminous, reflecting kindness, reflecting wonder. The mirror of stars is not glass. It is dust and ice chemistry and light science and poetry. And in its reflection you are both humbled and uplifted. Astronomers will archive their data. The orbit of Atlas will be plotted, its chemistry, recorded, its tails photographed. The comet will depart, fading into interstellar night, but its reflection will remain. It will linger not only in equations, but in minds and hearts. The mirror will not vanish. It will be carried within us, a reminder that even fleeting lanterns can reveal eternal truths. Pause once more and let the thought rest gently within you. Atlas is fragile, fleeting, uncertain, yet in reflecting sunlight, it has already achieved immortality, not in duration, but in meaning. It is not bound to our sun, but it is bound to our story. It will not return, but it will remain in memory. It is mirror, not stone, reflection, not permanence, and that is enough. So, as you close your eyes, let Atlas drift across your imagination. See it glowing, softly tails, shimmering, a lantern carried by invisible hands. See it reflecting the sun, reflecting the stars, reflecting us. Let it remind you that you too are a mirror, fragile but luminous, brief but meaningful. You too reflect light into the world, and in that reflection lies beauty. Atlas will fade, but its reflection endures. The mirror of stars is not only in the sky, it is within us, and in that mirror we find wonder, connection, and peace.